Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. And tonight's Monday Night Raw was from the Nassau Coliseum in Long Island. And tonight we had, of course, NXT invading Monday Night Raw tonight. And, I gotta say, Monday Night Raw tonight, I thought it was just a very meh show, in my opinion. I have to say that Smackdown was the better show on Friday with the NXT invasion that they did to set up for Survivor Series. So Smackdown was the much better show. Monday Night Raw, very meh show tonight. But let's get on with the review. So Monday Night Raw opened up tonight. It opened and we saw limousines that arrived to Nassau Coliseum, and we see Triple H get out of one of the limousines. So Triple H was here tonight, and he gets out of the limo, and he goes to the limo behind his, and he ends up saying something to who's ever driving the limo, and he starts walking backstage. Then we went to the Monday Night Raw intro, the pyro, and then Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman came out. Of course, on Smackdown on Friday, Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman came out. Paul Heyman was like, "Oh, Brock Lesnar quits SmackDown, and he's going to Monday Night Raw to hunt down Rey Mysterio." So Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman came out. Paul Heyman got on the mic. Of course, did his introduction, "Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman." And he talks about how Lesnar vanquished Cain Velasquez at Crown Jewel. Paul Heyman ends up talking about how Brock Lesnar ended up quitting SmackDown on Friday, and how he has come to Monday Night Raw tonight to beat down Rey Mysterio. Paul Heyman went on to say that a few weeks ago, right after the draft, Monday Night Raw traded Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross to SmackDown for 2 draft considerations. He ended up saying Brock Lesnar has a contract that says he can't be cut or be fired. So he ends up saying that Brock's contract has now been assigned to Raw, to Monday Night Raw. And so Paul Heyman ends up saying, "Oh, how much better Brock Lesnar is than all of us," bragging about that. And he says, someone has to know where Rey Mysterio is. So he ends up running down Rey Mysterio, and he ends up saying that Brock Lesnar is going to commit a felony against Rey Mysterio tonight. So that was what Paul Heyman had to say. Him and Brock Lesnar ended up going to the back. Then we went backstage, and Brock Lesnar ends up shouting, "Amigo, do you know where Rey Mysterio is?" So he starts asking crew members to try to find Rey Mysterio. Brock ended up beating up on this guy. The guy had blue hair, and he ended up, the guy's head went, head first into the table. Like, his head was bouncing off the table as Brock Lesnar was trying to get an answer out of that guy as to where Rey Mysterio was. We saw that. Then Raw went to a commercial. Then when it came back, Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman were still backstage trying to find where Rey Mysterio is, asking a crew member. Brock Lesnar ends up going to this crew member, and the crew member points to Brock Lesnar that Rey Mysterio is in the parking garage. So Brock Lesnar ends up walking over to this sort of like car, this limo, and Lesnar ends up ripping the door off the car. Brock Lesnar ends up pulling out this guy who was in there, and it's revealed that it wasn't Rey Mysterio. So Brock, was pissed off about that, and he ends up back kicking the door. The door ends up breaking like that. So pretty much that's basically what happened backstage. But it was Rey Mysterio. The outcome, Brock Lesnar trying to get his hands on Rey Mysterio. So we had that. Then we had Natalya and Charlotte Flair versus Kairi, Sane, and Asuka, the Kabuki Warriors. Women's tag team match. Match itself, I thought it was very boring. It was a boring match, in my opinion. But Natalya and Charlotte ended up getting the win. And there was one point in the match where Charlotte had Kairi, Sane, and Asuka both together. And Charlotte ended up going up to the top, delivering her moonsault, which she botched. She didn't get Kairi, Sane, or Asuka. But Natalya and Charlotte got the win. Natalya ended up blocking in the sharpshooter on Asuka. Asuka ended up tapping. So there you go. All in all, very boring match, in my opinion. Then, after the match was over, Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman came back out. Paul Heyman was on the mic. He was saying, where is Rey Mysterio? So Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar go over to the announce table where Vic Joseph, Dio Madden, and Jerry the King Lawler are at. So Paul Heyman was threatening Jerry Lawler, saying, "Oh, do you know where Rey Mysterio is? Where's Rey Mysterio?" Jerry Lawler goes, "Oh, I don't know. I haven't seen him." And then Paul Heyman's like, "Oh, you better let us know where Rey Mysterio is, or Brock's gonna, beat the hell out of you, and you're gonna have, a second on-screen death as to what happened, years ago." So Dio Madden gets up. He gets up to confront Brock Lesnar, which was a mistake because Brock Lesnar ends up delivering the F5 to Dio Madden on the announce table. Dio ended up going through the table. So after that, Rey Mysterio comes out from behind. He's got a bat. He ends up, hitting the bat at Lesnar's legs. And Rey Mysterio was just, swinging and swinging at Lesnar's legs. And Rey Mysterio ends up taking the title, WWE Championship. He had it in his hands, and he rams the title across Brock Lesnar's head. And pretty much that was basically what happened. But I'm liking this setup for Brock Lesnar and Rey Mysterio. It's an easy story to tell. But that was basically what happened. But I did like Rey Mysterio coming out, had the bat in hand, ended up swinging at Brock Lesnar at Lesnar's legs. Sorry about that, but after we saw the beatdown from Rey Mysterio to Brock Lesnar with the bat, Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when it came back from commercial, we saw footage that I guess was during the commercial break, where we saw Brock Lesnar. He ended up struggling to get to his feet after Mysterio hit his knees with the hit Lesnar's knees with the bat. So then, after that footage, Rey Mysterio ended up cutting a promo from backstage, and Mysterio ended up talking about how Brock Lesnar beat up his son Dominic, and he also talks about, invokes the notion of eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, fight fire with fire. He says, Rey Mysterio said that Brock came after what's most important to him, and that Rey Mysterio is coming after what's most important to Brock Lesnar, and that is the WWE Championship. So Rey Mysterio ends up challenging Brock Lesnar to a match at Survivor Series, which at first I was like, oh yeah, I thought we were going to get a champion versus champion match between Brock Lesnar and The Fiend. Is what I was originally thinking that WWE was going to do, but unfortunately, that's not the case. So now at Survivor Series, it's going to be Brock Lesnar versus Rey Mysterio. So it was official. It's taking place at Survivor Series. It's going to be for the WWE Championship. So I was wrong on that because everybody predicted that at Survivor Series we would see The Fiend versus Brock Lesnar in a champion versus champion match. But now since Brock Lesnar is on Monday Night Raw and Bray Wyatt's on SmackDown, and The Fiend, won the Universal. He's the Universal Champion. He has to be on Raw. But now they're going with Rey Mysterio versus Brock Lesnar. Then we had Buddy Murphy versus Cedric Alexander, which the match itself was very meh, in my opinion. I mean, two guys that I like, that they're very talented. Just the match itself, it was like very meh. It lasted maybe like 5-6 minutes tops. But Buddy Murphy got the win. Ended up hitting Murphy's Law on Cedric Alexander to score the win. So Buddy Murphy ends up winning the match. All in all, very meh match. Then we had Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins ended up coming out. He got on the mic, and he asks, what's next? And he says that, he admits it's been a rough couple of months for him. He ended up saying that he's not stupid, and he hears us. And he knows plenty of us were thrilled that he lost the Universal Championship to The Fiend at Crown Jewel. And he says, to be honest, he doesn't give a damn. And that doesn't concern him. He says what concerns him is that The Fiend took the Universal Championship to SmackDown. And Brock Lesnar is back on Monday Night Raw with the WWE Championship. He says everything he's worked for over the past year is a wash. Gone. Like he's starting from scratch. Seth ended up going on to say that he knows he knows his thing is redesign, rebuild, reclaim. But he ended up saying he doesn't know if he's got the energy for it this time. So he says, what's next for him? What's next for Seth Rollins? He says for the first time in a long time, he doesn't know. So then we had Triple H come out. Triple H ended up coming out, got in the ring, got on the mic. NXT chants from the crowd, which was really cool. So Triple H says, it's funny how history repeats itself. And whenever Seth doesn't know what's next, their paths cross. Triple H ended up saying that it's been that way for a long time. He says, and the first time Seth came to Triple H, he became the first NXT champion. And when Seth Rollins became the first NXT champion, he put that brand on the map. And he says the next time, the Shield was born. He says when the Shield ran its course, Seth came to him again and became the WWE champion. That was, of course, when Seth was a heel and he was with the Authority. And he ends up saying it's that way over and over again. So Seth Rollins ends up asking Triple H if those things were for his benefit or Triple H's. And Triple H ends up asking Seth if it matters when you walk away as champion. And, Triple H or Seth Rollins says that he saw NXT run rugshot on Smackdown. And Seth ends up saying that the whole roster was overseas because NXT was on Smackdown this past Friday, which they delivered a really good show and the best Smackdown of the year. So Triple H ends up saying, yeah, but that was smart. And he ends up pointing out that Adam Cole beat Daniel Bryan in the middle of the ring, which Adam Cole and Daniel Bryan put on a really good match. It was a great main event between the both of them. So Triple H ends up saying that NXT is here, and it's real. And the whole world wants to know what's next. He ends up saying Survivor Series is Raw versus SmackDown versus NXT. And they got something to prove. He says, maybe, he says to Seth that maybe, he is worried. That Seth is worried about not having the motivation. So Triple H ends up, saying, how to get Seth Rollins there and make him great. So the Undisputed Era end up coming out. Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong. My favorite stable in NXT. They are so over with the NXT crowd. Really enjoy them. So the Undisputed Era come out, and Triple H ends up offering Seth Rollins the choice. Either Seth is with him, or Seth is against him. So before Seth, tries to answer Triple H, the OC come out. Styles, Gallows, Anderson. And as the OC made their way down, the Undisputed Era end up bailing because they were on the ring apron. They ended up bailing, and they get chased over the barricade. The OC ends up chasing Undisputed Era. And then we see Dominik Dijakovic and Damian Priest from NXT. Really like Dominik Dijakovic. He is great in the ring. Love the matches that he had with Keith Lee. And both Dominik Dijakovic and Damian Priest attacked the OC from behind. And Raw stars, the Raw locker room came out. And we had like a chase off. And pretty much that was basically that. But it was cool seeing Dominik Dijakovic and Damian Priest there, and of course the Undisputed Era. NXT invading Monday Night Raw. So then Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when it came back, we saw Seth Rollins backstage. Seth Rollins ended up confronting Triple H and says if Triple H wants him in NXT, he's coming in as a top guy and that he's better than Daniel Bryan. So he asks Triple H that he wants an NXT Championship match against Adam Cole tonight. So Triple H ends up agreeing, books the match, and that was the match for the main event. So we had Seth Rollins versus Adam Cole for the NXT Championship as the main event. And then we had Andrade, Cien, Almas, and Zelina Vega. They end up making their way out. Zelina Vega got on the mic, talks about how she and Andrade are the greatest mixed tag combo that we saw. And she says we have the opportunity to see her and Andrade humiliate Carolina and Sin Cara. What did I tell you last week? What did I tell you all last week? I said last week in my Raw review, the next week we're probably going to see Andrade and Zelina versus Carolina and Sin Cara. And, of course, I was right. So we had that. We had Andrade, Cien, Almas, and Zelina Vega versus Sin Cara and Carolina in a mixed tag team match. And the match itself was shit. This was a boring match. Garbage match. Did not care for it. You had a point in the match where Carolina was on the ring apron. She did the Hurricanrana on Andrade on the outside. And towards the end of the match, Zelina Vega ended up picking up the win for her and Andrade. Zelina ended up hitting head scissor driver to Carolina. So there you go. Andrade and Zelina Vega win the match. The match I did not give a shit about. This was an awful match. Awful mixed tag match. Garbage. Boring. Then after that, we saw Rusev in the ring. Of course, we have to deal with this shitty storyline that all of us want to end between Rusev, Lana, and Bobby Lashley. Who gives a shit about this storyline? Do you all? I don't. I don't give a shit. This whole storyline is fucking awful. Absolute garbage. So, Rusev was in the ring. He ends up on the he gets on the mic, gets a Rusev Day chant from the crowd, which the Long Island crowd tonight They were dead in spots, but when the NXT stars were there, they popped for them. So you could tell that Triple H is behind all this NXT invasion. When you can tell that it's Triple H, and then half of the other stuff on this show was all Vince McMahon. So you could tell, the good portions of the show tonight with NXT, with the NXT invasion, and the shitty points, with all, you could tell all the matches that Vince McMahon booked for this show, or Vince McMahon oversaw for this show. So Rusev ends up saying, tonight is the night to end all this stupid drama. He says he's not out here to bicker with his soon-to-be ex-wife, Lana. He's here for Bobby Lashley. So Rusev says he's here to tell Lashley, man to man, if he wants Lana, she's all his. But Lashley's ass is Rusev's. So it looked like we were going to get Bobby Lashley versus Rusev finally, so we can end this putrid garbage storyline. So Bobby Lashley comes out. Bobby Lashley is shown with Lana, of course, and Bobby Lashley comes out on crutches. Bobby Lashley was on the mic. He says as much as he liked to beat Rusev up, he's not medically cleared to fight. He says over the weekend he suffered a debilitating injury, and that he tore his groin. And he says he didn't tear it at Crown Jewel. He tore it doing things. And when he means by doing things, he means, you know what? He means this. And he was performing ways Rusev could only fantasize about. So then we see him and Lana kiss. They share a laugh together. Who gives a shit? So Lana says the reality is Rusev isn't interested in hearing their life full of love and sex. He's interested in a different type of fight. So they end up saying that they have somebody else lined up to kick Rusev's ass. So who was that person? None other than Drew McIntyre. So Drew McIntyre came out. And we had a match. Rusev versus Drew McIntyre. Which, the match itself, it was okay. Not great. But towards the match we saw Bobby Lashley and Lana. They were watching the match from the stage. And the end of the match ended in a disqualification because Bobby Lashley attacks Rusev with one of his crutches, hits one of his crutches to Rusev's back, and showing that Bobby Lashley wasn't injured. It was all just a setup. So Bobby Lashley ends up driving Rusev into the barricade. Rusev ended up coming back. They were in the ring. He ends up getting his hands on Bobby Lashley. Ends up driving Lashley into the ring post. And, Lashley was still, by the ring post there. And Rusev then picks up Bobby Lashley's crutch. And then Rusev ends up getting RKO'd out of nowhere by Randy Orton. So Randy Orton ends up stomping away at Rusev. Ricochet comes out and makes the save. He ends up taking down both Bobby Lashley and Randy Orton. Ricochet then ended up doing a baseball slide into Lashley, which Lashley went back first into Lana, knocked Lana over. So pretty much that was basically what happened. But don't care about this shitty garbage storyline. When this, Rusev is probably counting down the days until his contract ends. So you could go somewhere else. You could go to AEW, New Japan, wherever Rusev goes. If he's not stupid to re-sign with WWE, if he goes to AEW or New Japan, they will respect him. By how how he wants to be respected. Because Rusev, he was kept off of TV, he came back, and he was part of this stupid, Mike Kanellis, Maria Kanellis bullshit with the Who's Daddy, which they dropped that storyline. I think they dropped it because, they haven't done it. They haven't went back to it. So he came back. Rusev is a guy who wants to be on TV. He wants to compete, and wants to be on TV. And with the whole thing when he came back with the Mike and Maria Kanellis shit. After that, they just put him in this garbage ass storyline with Bobby Lashley and Lana. Fucking garbage this is. I can tell you now that Rusev, Lana, and Bobby Lashley, whatever behind the scenes or not on TV, I could guarantee they are not too comfortable with this storyline. I can guarantee it. Who knows? I may be wrong on that, but behind the scenes, probably, they're like that. Probably they're thinking about, being in this garbage storyline and being uncomfortable with it. But what do I know? That is my prediction. That's my prediction. But I feel really bad for Rusev that he has to be stuck in this garbage ass storyline. So then after that, we had Becky Lynch was being interviewed about her Survivor Series match. Putting her against Bayley and Shayna Baszler. So at Survivor Series, it's going to be Becky Lynch versus Bayley versus Shayna Baszler. Becky, of course, the Raw Women's Champion. Bayley, the SmackDown Women's Champion. And Shayna Baszler, the NXT Women's Champion. Going to be going at it. She says normally she's out for retribution, but this year she's the target because she put her opponent's best friends on the injured reserve and off the roster. So Shayna Baszler ends up interrupting because Charlie Caruso was interviewing Becky. So Shayna Baszler interrupts, which I was like, yes! This is going to be awesome. This whole interview is going to be awesome. So Shayna Baszler comes. She ends up taking Charlie Caruso's seat. So Shayna Baszler ends up saying that she's been waiting a long time to meet Becky Lynch face to face. She says everybody always talks about what a shining example of the talent from NXT Becky is. She says, yeah, she's friends with Ronda Rousey, but she's not Ronda. Shayna ends up saying that at Survivor Series, she's not taking her eyes off Bayley. But champion to champion, she ends up saying that she wanted to tell Becky that she's going to pin her or tap her out. And the only thing she has to think about before then is which limb will belong to the Queen of Spades. Of course, is Shayna Baszler. So Becky Lynch ends up saying to Shayna that she hasn't decided whether she respects Shayna yet. She says she's glad they had this chance to talk so she could feel the same doubt Ronda did. And Becky ends up saying that she's coming directly for Shayna Baszler at Survivor Series. So both Shayna and Becky stand up. Shayna ends up saying she's glad to have met Becky and had this talk. And Becky ends up telling Shayna to bring her best. And that's how the interview ended. But this was a really great interview. It had tension for for a little bit of the hype for the match. So this is definitely going to be awesome to see at Survivor Series. Becky, Shayna, Bayley, all going champion versus champion versus champion. It's going to be really interesting to see. I would not be surprised if Shayna ends up winning that match because of how good she is in the ring, how talented she is, and she's, in my opinion, the best heel in the NXT Women's Division. She is a really good NXT Women's Champion. But great interview with Shayna Baszler and Becky. Really enjoyed the hell out of it. Then we had the OC. They end up coming out. AJ Styles ends up getting on the mic. Styles ends up saying that Gallows and Anderson are the best tag team in the world. And they have a trophy to prove it. He ends up saying another fact is that he's the phenomenal AJ Styles. And he is the United States champion. He ends up saying one more fact is that they don't give a damn about NXT. So Styles ends up saying next time they see one of those punks, they're going to make sure they never step foot out of Orlando, Florida. Sorry about that, but I was saying, AJ Styles ends up saying, next time he sees one of those NXT punks, they're going to make sure they never step foot out of Orlando. Then we had Humberto Carrillo and the Street Profits come out. Montez Ford, he got on the mic and he calls out the trophy, to which Angelo Dawkins points out that the OC lost to them 2 weeks ago. He says all three of them keep saying that the Street Profits beat the OC. And Styles was mad, and he ends up telling them to shut up or he'll shut them up. So Angelo Dawkins says Styles hates Humberto Carrillo because moms love to swipe right on them dimples. So Humberto and the Street Profits, they end the promo by saying they want the smoke. And that was pretty much basically that. Then we had the OC versus the Street Profits and Humberto Carrillo. 6-man tag. Match itself, very meh, in my opinion. But the OC ended up getting the win. AJ Styles ended up hitting a powerbomb. God, I can't even talk. But yeah, that's what 3 hours of Raw makes you. But Styles ended up hitting a powerbomb on Humberto Carrillo, and Styles went for the pin. He had his feet on the ropes. The referee didn't see it. So there you go. The OC ended up winning the match, being the Street Profits and Humberto Carrillo. In the match, Street Profits, he did decent here, and it still does nothing for Humberto Carrillo. Humberto is 0-4. So, WWE is going to really make people get behind Humberto Carrillo when he has 0 wins. Alright, this is his 4th loss since coming to Monday Night Raw. And then Vince ends up saying, "Oh yeah, we see big things in Humberto Carrillo." Yeah, where is it? Where is it? Big things. Big things is, oh, you're going to make him keep losing? You're going to make him go on a losing streak? No one's going to get behind Humberto Carrillo if he keeps losing. To me, Humberto, one of my favorites. The guy is talented. Should not be losing like this. So it's just going to make him look like another jobber. But all in all, very meh 6-man tag. Oh my God. And this. Then next we had the War Raiders versus the East Hampton Polo Boys. Yeah, I shit you not. That was the name of these two guys. The East Hampton Polo Boys. And you know what? When this match started, I went to the bathroom, took a piss. When I came back, the match was over. The War Raiders won it. And that was that. I did not give a shit. I went to the bathroom. This was my bathroom break. So the War Raiders ended up winning. Possibly hit the Viking Experience on one of the guys. So yeah, that was my bathroom break. Then we had the main event. Seth Rollins versus Adam Cole for the NXT Championship. And I gotta say, the match was decent. Wasn't as good as when Adam Cole faced Daniel Bryan on Smackdown. The match felt very rushed, in my opinion. I mean, Adam Cole and Daniel Bryan got more time on Smackdown than Adam Cole had here with Seth Rollins. So, but Triple H was on the outside watching the match, and it was back and forth between Seth and Cole. And at the end of the match, Seth Rollins won the match by disqualification. The Undisputed Era ended up coming in. They ended up beating down on Seth Rollins. And the Raw locker room ended up coming out. And the NXT roster also came out. We saw like Tommaso Ciampa, Keith Lee, among others. Sorry about that, but I was saying, we saw the NXT roster came out. Tommaso Ciampa was there, Keith Lee, among others. We saw a brawl between both rosters. Ricochet was in the ring. He ended up doing a shooting star press onto everyone on the outside, taking everybody out, which looked really awesome. And Monday Night Raw ended right off the air. Last image we saw when Raw went off the air was Keith Lee was in the ring, and he ended up leaping over the ropes onto everyone on the outside, taking them all out. And it was really cool how Keith Lee did that. So, but there you go. That was how Monday Night Raw went off the air. Overall, like I said, Monday Night Raw was a very meh show tonight. SmackDown was the much better show in handling the NXT invasion. But Monday Night Raw tonight, the NXT invasion here tonight, didn't do it as good as how SmackDown did it. But Anyways, that's it for the Monday Night Raw review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. And until the next video, I'll see you all later.